Hello everyone, what's up and welcome back to my channel. I thought we would do kind of a chilled out video today. Thought we would do a Q&A all about the money. You guys love it when I talk about money, and it's a nice gloomy day. I'm feeling cozy, feeling chatty, so let's hop in. First question, best way to put money in different accounts with each sale. Example, business savings and checking, personal checking, and so on and so forth. Okay, check with your bank. Every bank is gonna be different. Some banks do allow sort of automations where you can automatically put a certain percentage into a savings account, into a business checking account, and so on and so forth. So check with your bank for the specifics on how to do that. I personally just transfer things myself because I don't know, I'm a little bit of a control freak and I like to sort of see the money and physically put it into different accounts. So that's how I am. I'm pretty good with money management, I would say, so know yourself, right? But as far as the amounts that you should be putting into, obviously, I am not an accountant, so I recommend going by whatever your accountant tells you to do. But in my experience, what I normally do is I do 30% minimum for tax savings. So I put that into a savings account in my business account and I don't touch it. That way, when my tax bill comes around every quarter or at the end of the year, I am not taken off guard and wondering how the heck do I pay for it. Owner's pay is really gonna depend on a lot of different things. It's gonna depend on if you're on a salary or if you're just totally freelance and you're doing what's called the owner's draw method, where you're just able to literally take money out of your business account and pay yourself with that. So it does depend. I will say be very frugal. And again, I would probably talk to an accountant if you're trying to figure out how much to pay yourself, but my advice is to be very frugal. I am finally putting myself on a salary, and my salary is much, much lower than I think a lot of people would think. Just because you don't want to overpay yourself and then end up not having money to bring on contractors if you need them, pay for essentials in your business, or even just pay yourself. You want to make sure you have enough to cover your salary for the year. And then if you want to give yourself bonuses, you can do that later on. Is there a certain amount you suggest having saved before going out on your own as a freelancer? I think my general rule of thumb is in an ideal world, I would say 6 months expenses. I know that's not realistic for everyone. I know that is maybe not enough for some people. I probably had closer to I think it was definitely between 6 months and a year that I had before I fully went out on my own. So I did what felt really right for me. I did have clients in the pipeline. I did have clients that I was working with. They weren't huge clients, but they were clients that were, giving me money every month. So I wasn't completely starting from scratch. So that's going to have an effect too, because if you're going out completely on your own and you don't have any clients lined up yet, I'm going to tell you definitely shoot closer to that 12-month mark. If you have a $5,000 contract and a couple of other smaller contracts as well, I might tell you, hey, you could probably get by with 3 to 6 months. But in general, that's what I would say. Taxes, general tips, booking, accounting tips, paying yourself and contractors. Okay, so taxes, I did a whole video, I'll link it, about everything I know about freelance taxes. That should help you out. And then booking, and I think this is supposed to say bookkeeping and accounting tips. Well, it would definitely say make time for it every week. I'm actually sharing a video soon about me not doing a good job of bookkeeping and ending up with a very expensive mistake. So make sure that you set aside time, ideally every week, but if it can't happen every week, at least every single month to balance your books. So use a tool. I use Quickbooks personally. That's what most accountants are very familiar with. So it's a good one to try out. I'll have a link down below if you want to sign up for it. And you just go in there and you connect your business bank accounts, and you will be able to mark whether things are business expenses, personal expenses, and what category they need to be filed under for your taxes, and so on and so forth. So getting into balance your books is really important, just to make sure that nothing is slipping through the cracks. And then as far as paying yourself and contractors, I kind of already talked about paying yourself. I am finally putting myself on a salary, like I said, and I'm using Gusto, I don't know, I think it's Gusto. I'll leave that link down below as well. Paying contractors though, most contractors that are relatively established should already have their own method for doing this. So most of my contractors will just send me an invoice using whatever invoicing tool that they personally use. I do also have the ability on Gusto gusto, whatever, to add contractors that way too if they prefer, or if they're gonna be like a long-term contractor. Facebook ads, do you factor the cost of them into your invoice or pay, or do your clients just pay it? So I generally recommend that you have your clients set up their billing in Business Manager and Ads Manager. So they should set up their credit card into the Ads Manager account so that you are not being sort of the middleman. Whenever I've done Facebook ads for clients, I've always just had their Business Manager running with their credit card, and then I would just let them know what we would be spending every month, and that part, that portion, the ads portion, would be billed directly through Facebook, and that's how they'd see it on their credit card statement. Can you just ask clients to pay straight into your bank, or should you use a tool like Wave? I recommend using a tool like Wave or QuickBooks or some type of invoicing tool, because one, it's gonna help you go back and balance your books and see, what came in, what went out. I think getting paid directly through your bank account becomes a bit more of an accounting headache, in my opinion. But also, I just personally try to avoid giving my account number and routing number to as many people as possible, as little people as possible. Just it doesn't feel as secure. So I personally like to use an accounting tool, and I would recommend it. I also think it just appears a bit more professional. It appears like you have everything together and like you have a process for it. So I would just invoice. I know a lot of people are concerned about the transaction fees, which I understand because they do definitely add up. Talk to your accountant about it, because they might be able to be written off at the end of the year on your taxes, depending on where you are and all of that stuff. So that might give you a little silver lining to it. How do you ensure consistent income revenue? I think you got to plan for it. I think this is the thing about freelancing, is you have to really be very forward thinking. If in January you get a $10,000 payment, don't spend it all. Put some of that into tax savings, pay yourself a little bit, but also keep some of that in the business, because in February you might only make $3,000 or you might make $30,000. It can be very, very inconsistent in terms of money, in terms of revenue. So I think that's really the key, is just saving so that you can sort of get off of that sort of feast or famine cycle, and then always planning things, like planning events. If you're looking at the calendar and you don't have anything coming up, you don't have any discovery calls booked, you don't have any clients locked in, planning different marketing activities. Maybe you're going to do a webinar in January. Maybe you're going to run some Facebook ads in February. Maybe you're going to launch a LinkedIn series or something, or a prospecting campaign. We're going to be cold calling people or cold emailing people, making sure that you're always doing something to move the business forward. That's kind of been my mantra, and that's how I've really done it. Is I've just never sat still. I've never been like, you know what? I don't have anything going on, nothing on the horizon, and things are just gonna come to me. If I had no clients, if I had nothing in the books, if my bank account was looking sad, I was always just moving forward in some way, putting myself out there, making myself visible online in some way. Do you have to pay taxes quarterly, and who sets that up? So your accountant should be able to help you with this. I think it's a great idea if you're, really getting serious with a freelancing business. After it becomes more than just a sort of hobby or a side hustle, I think that's a good time to just speak with an accountant, find somebody to just get some preliminary information from about what you need to do logistically and all of that, and sort of what their process is, and just to make sure that you have them locked in for tax time, because good accountants do book up at tax time too. So yeah, I think that's a good thing, but I'll tell you my experience. Again, it's in that video, which I'll link up here in the I section, but basically my first year doing taxes, where I actually made a decent freelance income, more than a few $1,000s. At the end of the year, the IRS actually sent me these payment coupons. So they'll send them to you in your tax return, and they'll say, hey, here are the dates that you're supposed to pay, and here's the estimate that you're supposed to pay based on your last year's tax return. So it's kind of easy that way. And then if you use QuickBooks, that will also tell you, it will give you recommendations based on your last tax return as well. And then of course, if you work with an accountant, they'll do the same thing. So somebody, like, you'll definitely know if it's time to start paying quarterly taxes. It's not just going to be like, wait, I didn't know. You'll definitely know from one of those three sources. Health insurance and retirement savings. So health insurance, stay tuned. I'm hoping to have some more information for you all very soon in some content, so stay tuned. But the short stories, I just have the marketplace plan. It's not great. And I've acknowledged like my health privilege in that regard, in that I don't have any serious long-term health issues that I know of, knock on wood. So you know, I can get by with sort of a less phenomenal plan. But like I said, I think I'm gonna have some good information for you coming up soon, so stay tuned. And then as far as retirement, so I am also not an expert at this. Full transparency here, I really am not. I do have some investment accounts, but I'm not like an expert by any means. I have an Acorns account, which I consider just kind of like my more casual savings account. I'll link a ton of resources down in the description box, but one of the things that I will link is my Acorns account, because I think I do have like a little promo that if you use my link, you'll get a little deposit into your account. But what's really cool about that is you can just set it up on autopilot. So you're saving like $5 a week, $10 a week, whatever, from your bank account, and you don't even notice it. You don't even have to do it. It'll just automatically do it for you, which is really nice, because like $5 a week, I really don't notice. I mean, that's a couple coffees. Like I don't even notice that. And you can turn that feature off too, of course. And then it will also do investments for you as well. If you're like me and you're not really like sure what to invest in, there's different levels that you can choose. You can choose an aggressive investment fund, you can choose a moderate one, or a more conservative one. And then I also have an IRA set up through Ellevest. And that is it's specifically like a women-owned company, an investment company. And so that's who I set up my IRA through. I'm really planning on getting a lot more serious about this in the next few years, really like next year. That's kind of a big goal for myself. As I am doing big adult things, I'm turning 30, I'm getting married, I'm looking into buying a home soon. So I just want to make sure that I am, doing a better job at that, because I'm honestly not a great example. So there's that. How do you find an accountant or tax professional that understands freelancing? I will say this one was hard for me, and it still is hard for me, but how I found the accountant that I work with was really through, I'm trying to remember now, I think it was through a Facebook group. I'm in several different freelancing Facebook groups. So there's like Freelancing Females, there's Society Gal, there's a ton. Even my own Facebook group, I'm sure somebody could probably recommend somebody in there. And what I like to do is I just like to go into the search bar and I type in like accountant or taxes or things like that to see what other people have talked about in the past. And I think that's how I got the recommendation for the person that I went with. If you were gonna like put out a job ad somewhere or go on like Upwork or something like that, or even if you just post into a Facebook group or whatever, or go to talk to somebody at a local tax place, I would make sure to let them know that you need somebody who understands online business. Because even more than freelancing, I think sometimes people think freelancing, it's like, oh, like I've worked with freelance photographers before, or I've worked with like contractors, like building contractors, or, things like that. And online business is different, as you know. So that's what I would ask about. And also just referrals, like anything, like any service, make sure that they have recommendations, that they have reviews, look at their Google reviews, their Facebook pages, their Instagram, any of that stuff. If people seem happy and they're like legitimate seeming people, like businesses, then that's probably a good sign. That social proof is very important. And the last question I'm going to answer is how to start with finances as a freelancer. And at first I wasn't going to answer this one because it was like so broad, but then I was like, wait, that's actually a great question, because what I recommend is tracking your revenue and your expenses. That's like the most simple thing. If you're like, I am so confused about this whole money thing, just track what you're making, track what you're spending, and then pay somebody to help you figure that out and make sense of it at the end of the year. You know, pay an accountant to help you with it. I have a spreadsheet. It's very simple. It just has all of my different revenue streams at the top. And then I have like the months along the side. And I just, every month I go in and I say, okay, I made this much from courses, this much from YouTube, this much from, you know, service-based work, this much from coaching, this much from sponsorships, whatever else I have, whatever other revenue streams I have. And that just helps me get like a bird's eye view. It's not gonna be perfect because there are gonna be expenses that go along with that. And, you know, there's gonna be, I don't know, there's gonna be other like nuances to it, I guess. But I at least have a ballpark number of what I'm making every month and, you know, throughout the year. And then same thing for expenses. I'll just mark down my expenses in my accounting software, or you could just do a spreadsheet if you don't have an accounting software yet, and just mark that down and figure out like how much am I spending for the business every month, and then you subtract that revenue, or you subtract that expense number from that revenue number to figure out what your profit is every month. And then that's what you really have to work with in terms of tax savings, owner's payment, contractors, and anything else that you might have to pay for. So that's like the basic thing. Like if you're doing nothing else, just do that. All right, I hope this was helpful. I hope this gave you a little bit of insight into the world of freelance finances. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave them down below. You can also follow me on Instagram. This is usually where I ask people if they have questions and source these questions from. So I'd love if you joined me over there. I post on stories almost every day. And yeah, of course, as always, please subscribe, thumbs up, comment down below, and I will talk to you in my next video. Bye.